imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So can Seattle rip off the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival from San Francisco?
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
You're listening to episode 51 of the Exploring Washington State podcast. Welcome. We're glad you're here. This episode is a conversation I had recently with Louise Bendall. Louise is the host of the Local With Louise show on KBFG FM 107.3 in North Seattle. And that show is on Fridays and then replayed again on Sundays. Louise does an hour-long show of showcasing Seattle area musicians. So during this episode, we're going to chat about, guess what? Seattle area musicians. I think you're going to enjoy it. But before we let you go to that episode, of course, if you haven't subscribed, please do and leave us a review. You can email me directly at podcast@explorewashingtonstate.com if you've got any guest suggestions or if you have any suggestions, period. So thanks for listening, and let's get started with today's episode. So welcome, Louise. Thank you for being a guest today. I appreciate you taking some time out to join us.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm talking to somebody who is a radio DJ, so now I have to be careful what I do because it won't be professional, but that's okay. We're going to have fun.
Well, you have different rules for podcast and FM.
Okay, let's come back to that though. I want to talk about that. So why don't you tell our audience what it is you're doing and about your radio show on KBFG, and we'll go from there. We'll start there and we'll meander.
Okay, so I host Local With Louise, which is a local music local music radio show on KBFG. I don't know why I'm talking podcast now. And I do podcast it, but local music radio show. And it started off focusing on Seattle's live music scene when I first started it a few years ago. And but then now it has just evolved into a show that sort of just focuses on the area's music scene and not necessarily live music.
Okay. And how long have you been doing the show here in Seattle?
So I moved to Seattle about 3.5 years ago, and I started the show pretty quickly after I moved. I think technically I just did episode 173 of the show.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's a week, I do it once a week. And it's every Friday, and then it replays on Sunday. And so I've done it for a while.
I am not that familiar with KBFG. Maybe you can share some story there.
KBFG, which is Ballard, Fremont, Greenwood, you see, is in that area. And
Makes
it's
sense.
One of the low power stations. I guess it was like 5 years ago when the government was releasing a few of the radio waves that they had, and you had to go through an application process to try to get these radio waves. And I have been involved in radio for a while. I definitely believe, knowledge is power, and communication is a powerful thing. And especially the great thing about these low power radio stations is they are small signal and very community focused usually.
Okay.
They'll have a small FM signal, but then of course, an online presence where they can be listened to from anywhere. And so I got involved with one of those in North Carolina. And then when I moved here, I sought them out. And KBFG was one of the ones that was just getting started. Seattle was lucky enough to have someone help them with the application process. I think it was somehow associated with they ended up, whoever had helped people write grants, and they had the paperwork for, I don't know, say 10 radio stations. But then in order to, you had to, have your signal by a certain date and have certain things in place. And I think only maybe 4 or 5 of the low power stations ended up making it. And KBFG is one of those. And actually Hollow Earth Radio, KHUH, where we were talking about, I have another show, La Musica, that is another low power FM station that sort of made it through there. So it is a newer station for sure.
Okay. So this is a smaller footprint then. I mean, I can't listen to it here in Wenatchee. I can do it online, but obviously we're not going to get an FM signal. But how far south? I mean, can South Seattle get the signal?
No.
Okay.
I think it's probably like a 3-mile radius is generally what a low power station is, and so they are located. I think that I feel like the tower itself is sort of in Fremont, and I'm here in sort of Capitol Hill, the northern part of Capitol Hill, and I can just get it when I drive around here.
Okay.
So,
and this is nonprofit, right? Correct. It's a community nonprofit radio station.
Yes, nonprofit, community powered radio station. And so I went to them and I said, because I had a radio show in North Carolina that I had produced and started called Licks and Lyrics that focused on local bands and their songwriting process. And I would bring them into the studio and interview them, and they would play live. And I really was thinking I would do this again. But when I went to KBFG, they did not have a studio. Oh. They were sort of, the signal was here and someone else had some equipment here and someone else. And they were like, well, you can come to someone's house. And I was like, so I ended up doing it from home. And I am hoping that when we come out of their studio is now in Jack Straw Art Studio. And so when we come out of the pandemic lockdown, I am hoping that I can take the show and maybe on Sunday have a sort of live interview, and because I know a lot of bands would like that as well. So there are lots of things to do with it, but now I use it as an excuse to just sort of explore music and listen to lots of music and find new bands. And I think I try to find at least a new band for myself every week. I try to, explore and as I was saying to you earlier when we spoke the other day, it's not just about bands from Seattle. Even when it focused on Seattle's live music scene, a lot of bands are coming from Issaquah or Olympia or Tacoma or, wherever to play. So it's been really fun to explore.
What is your process that you go through to find bands?
Oh, I don't really have
no trade secrets you want to share.
Yeah, no. Like some mornings I open up my email and I'm like, yay, look at all this great new music that people have been sending me. And sometimes like the messages just come to me and someone told me about you, or I heard your show, or, hey, so I definitely like those, and that makes it easy. And then, I don't know. It used to be that when the show, I guess it's more like now people, I sort of like you find a band that you like, and then maybe you find a band that they know, then you sort of, and you're, whereas when the show first started and I was just, I just moved here, I didn't know anybody, and it was all about going to see the shows, and you would go see the bands, and then you'd go see a show. It'd be like 3 or 4 bands in one night that you would get to see. And then, so you would, then from there, you would maybe say like, oh, that one band, Barracks. Wow. I can't wait to see them again. Where are they going to play? Oh, and next time they're playing with these 3 bands. And then you get to know. So you would keep, it's really easy to sort of just like go down the rabbit hole of finding good music, especially if it's, ooh, I like this, then it becomes, that's no
the easy
secret.
part.
That you sort of fall down the hole. Yeah. And there's so many great bands that makes it easy too. I mean, some of these bands that maybe only had singles before are now putting together the albums. And so, yeah.
So who are you finding now? You keep referencing there's these good bands. Drop some names.
So Martial Law Band, I really love, and La Fonda and Bear Axe and Flesh Produce and Black Ends, Nobi. There's so many. I mean, I Stephanie and Johnson, you and I were just talking about the other day, and there's
a lot of talent in the area.
Yeah. There really is. It's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah. I can't wait to go see it again live.
Well, pre-pandemic, where were some venues in the Seattle area that you enjoyed going to?
Well, honestly, I really liked the variety. I liked that there was so much, because I didn't live in a city as big as Seattle before, and there were maybe 3 venues in the place where I was before, and they were 3 great venues, and this was so great. I could start my night up in Ballard. Like I said to you, we tried to be like, okay, we're just going to go one night a week out to see music. But because it was one night, we were trying to squeeze in as many shows as we could. So we're going to start up in Ballard, and then, maybe we're going to start at like the High Dive, or we'll end up. But I liked, of course, Showbox, and but then I loved Cafe Racer with their Obama Museum. I'm so sad that that's gone. Did you ever go to their Obama?
I never got to go there. They
had a Jesus portrait made out of those like marshmallow chicks.
Wasn't that the Museum of Bad Art?
Yes, it was called the Obama Museum, but it was the of Bad Art Museum of Art. The something. It was an acronym for something. It had nothing to do with Obama. I don't even think there was a picture of Obama in there. But there were a lot of weird.
Yeah, the owner of that, one of them was, I think she still is, a real estate broker in Seattle, and so I had would run into her every now and then, but I never got to Cafe Racer when I was living.
They have a radio podcast now that they do, or a radio show.
Yeah, I did see
but
that.
The venue itself is gone, which is too bad, because you could see some bands that people did not know how good they were there. Where you would.
Right. Yeah. And you were right, though. Seattle has some great venues of all sizes. One venue that I always enjoyed going to was the Tractor Tavern. I like the Tractor.
Tractor Tavern. I like the Tractor. Is lovely. Yeah, that's a big open space. I mean, I feel like they're all so good. They're also honestly so many. I really hope they make it.
That's going to be interesting to see, and the musical community is kind of rallying around trying to save some of those spaces and keep them going, through the transition, if you will, and I really hope that they are able to survive, and I think maybe they won't, but they'll come back. I think if somebody else will take that space. I mean, the ownership group of a club may not be able to continue, but the space will be probably picked up by somebody else and used again as a facility. That's at least, I wish everyone that was the owner could stay as owners. If they can't, I hope the space stays as musical space in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think, was it the Crocodile that had to move recently? The
Crocodile, my understanding is the Crocodile,
they're going to a different
the lease
venue,
became prohibitive, and so they moved to another location. Yes. Yeah. And then I don't know if the Showbox is going to be saved or not. I still don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know either. I feel like but what I'm also seeing, I'm seeing a lot of bars where they are getting sold, but it's getting sold to people who worked there before, or so I think maybe a lot of people, it's going to be a time of change for sure, but there's too much art and music in this city and I agree with you. I don't think it's just gonna go away. Maybe they'll do better music festivals. Like one of the things I really liked was, I guess it was 2 years ago, they had just a day festival. I think it was called the Mercer Summit Block Party. And it
Okay.
was Mercer and Summer, that Summit, that corner. They just shut down that corner, and I think they had 3 different stages with bands, and
Wow.
it was a great, such a great party, and people were walking around, and it wasn't a big $250 ticket, and it was much more community celebration. So I feel like they're going to be, the music will continue, the art will continue, and we'll see how things change and what stays the same.
I wish Seattle, because Seattle's got the space to do it. They've got, I wish, imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. So can Seattle rip off the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival from San Francisco and do a free, have you ever been to Hardly Strictly? So it's in Golden Gate Park, and it's free. And there's 7 stages going.
Yeah.
And it's funded by a gentleman who was a billionaire. He's passed away, and his entire estate pretty much goes to keep this thing going in perpetuity. And the quality of music for 3 days, and there's over 1 million people that go through the park in those 3 days. It's insane. And it's a wonderful experience. And I would love to see something like that in Seattle, say like maybe over at Marymore and Redmond or something. It would just be fun if somebody here in Seattle would underwrite a festival.
It seems like there's some nice festivals that just then explode and get so expensive. One of the first concerts when we moved here in the summer, and we went to the Capitol Hill Block Party, which when we went was a great block party. There were no fences, and it just seemed much more low key. I don't know. And then the next year it just seemed like there were more fenced off and special areas, and every year and tickets were more expensive. And I don't know. I'm also thinking of a very large concert that happened every year, and that kept getting more and more and more expensive. So I feel like, Seattle could do with some good free concerts, as long as artists are getting paid. I think like that's got to be.
And Hardly Strictly, they are getting paid. There's and you can go see. I'm trying to think. Who did I see? Like, I think last year I was there, Mavis Staples was there.
Nice.
And we saw Dwight Yoakam, and they're only playing like 25-minute sets.
Right.
And so
they're not
just
playing 3-hour shows.
No.
So it's probably a lot more fun for them too, because they're
and that's just
hanging out with their friends and meeting people.
Exactly. They all kind of, it's the same. It's in October every year, which in the Bay Area is a beautiful time of year. And the national acts or the bigger touring acts plan their tours to come through. And but yet you get to see some people that you've never heard of before that are just absolutely, wow, how did I miss that?
Right. And that's what it should be, really. Yeah.
And so it's just, I would love to see that to happen, because there are some great venues in the state to go to, but they can get, like you said, get kind of spendy for tickets and all that. So
I would definitely love to see some music for more people, and artists definitely paid for their work.
Right. What genres on your show? What genres do you like to feature of music? Do you have?
I think I try to be pretty eclectic, so that I'm not. I definitely play a lot of what I like, but but I also just play. I try to have. I'll look at last week's show. I definitely had some some hip hop and some rap and some pop and some sort of more Americana and more rock. I think it's electronica. I feel like I try to, as long as it's good. Last
As
week
long
I
as it's
did
good.
all female artists. So,
Okay.
so National Women's Month, and I was trying to, without having an obvious theme, I just tried to make sure that there was sort of like a woman in every band that I was playing.
Do you use themes in your show? I mean, do you?
Sometimes I do, but I don't. Honestly, I don't. I try not to talk so much because I want to cram as many bands as I can. So, like, I know that it's Black History Month and I'm playing, BIPOC, and but I'm not saying that during my show. So
You're not saying it
sometimes
during
I
the show.
do. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just, I start with, okay, I have this new music that I've got this week that I want to play. And then I sort of, what would sound good with this? Oh, that reminds me of this song. Oh, but definitely sometimes that, like if I'm, there was a time where I was really upset with what was happening at CHOP. And I definitely played like Vivian's Cop Van, and I played the band Don't Talk to the Cops. And and so I feel like sometimes I have like a moment where I'm saying, but I never am, like I said, less talk from me.
You're not saying it directly. You're letting the music speak.
Yes. If you were just sort of like paying attention to the playlist, you might notice.
Okay.
But,
so you mentioned earlier that you're doing this from home.
Mm-hmm.
And just from a technical standpoint, nobody else but me might be interested in this, but how does one go about doing a radio show from one's home?
So when I had definitely worked in radio before, and when I moved here, as I said, they didn't have a studio, and I was like, I'll do it on my phone. And so there was a time where I had my little ear pods and my phone, and I was recording stuff. And so, now I actually, I have like a microphone and a little bit more of a setup here since I'm doing it so much more often. And I think I'll be doing it like this for a while at least. And so, I get the music from the bands and then I record my pieces around it and then drop it into the airtime. So,
okay.
I'm working in GarageBand and iTunes, and airtime would be my big, I think so. Yeah. I think that's how I'm.
And then you're also now, because of the pandemic, you're packaging it up as a podcast so it can be downloaded and listened to separately.
Yes. I've started doing the podcast on Mixcloud. Yes, which I had a Mixcloud from an earlier account, and so I was just able to sort of start using that. So,
what else? I mean, so I'll paint a picture. And this is a picture I think we all want, which is the pandemic is over and life is quote unquote normal again.
All right. Whatever that means.
Right. Go along with that. Mm-hmm. What do you hope your show evolves into once we're able to? I mean, is it going to go back to being about who's in town this week?
No, because actually my wife and I were just talking about that recently, and she was saying, I've really enjoyed some of the bands that you've discovered and that definitely we wouldn't have discovered if I was just focusing on who's playing live.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely it will. As I said, I would love for it to break off into, maybe if I don't have a repeat Sunday, I could do a live show or a live interview show. I'd love to end up doing something like that from the studio. I think I could still continue to do the show that I do now from my home, but I would love to, if I'm going to the studio, I would love to start, just because that seems like there's been such an interest from bands who want to try to have another venue to promote themselves. And I would love to.
Sure.
To do that.
I think a live show would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a great addition to the concept.
Yeah. And as I said, I who doesn't want to sit and have bands play live? I mean, I enjoy that. Yeah. So I think, that would be, I don't know how soon down the road that is, but that's something I feel like that another day of the show could evolve into. And this one, I feel like I would just probably continue doing it sort of like what I'm doing now, but definitely help bands who are playing live. I would still mention that their shows are coming up, but I wouldn't just focus on the live music scene. I don't think I want to go back.
Okay. And what is so you mentioned the Hollow Earth. What is the difference between these two stations? Is there, it's just locale that in other words, I mean, obviously there's different shows on both, but are they both kind of community focused?
Yes, but they're totally different vibes. Yes.
Okay.
They're I mean, just like any radio stations are different, So, and the reason I was so now I don't do my La Musica show. I just drop in old episodes because I can't go to the Hollow Earth station to do that. So that one I'm not able to. Whereas the other one, because I started it here at home because they did not have and honestly, I was just getting ready to start to I should try to start gravitating into the studio and do it from there now that they've got now. So I think it's worked out that I'm able to keep the momentum with this one and it's been really good for me too. I mean, let's be honest, music has been there for some of the where you're just like, what is happening?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes music really helps. When you're feeling no connection with people, and to have a community music connection really has been good. Yeah.
I'm going to go back. You said something your wife said she liked that you're not necessarily just talking about live music because you've discovered bands that you would not have naturally maybe discovered live. Can you give us an example of one that she is happy to have found?
Let me see. Well, okay. So for instance, you and I were just talking about Stephanie Ann Johnson and the High Dogs, and we had not seen them. And so I think they were probably on our radar to see, and I had definitely played her on my show. But, I think that there was someone recently, there was this electronica band. What was it? Torbjorn or something. They were really, I know one. Dan, I think I told you about him. Dan Burt, No Bacon, Carolyn Kramer, and the Axis of Descent, right? Did you check them out?
I did.
So that whole Elect a Clown, Expect a Circus, that song is so good. And so that is definitely something that was so fun to discover. This whole Mesmerica thing that was happening over in Twisp, right? Which I never would have had that on my radar. So that was something. There's one that's definitely obvious fun. But there have been others.
Yeah, and that was one you shared with me the other day when we were talking, and I was looking, and I was like, interesting that he ended up in Twisp, of all places with the history that they had, prolific history of music that I would have just.
Twisp is lovely.
It is a great place. It is a great place. So when you're not spinning records, we'll call it what it used to be, because I still romanticize the idea of being a DJ. Right. Sitting there spinning records.
Yeah.
Where are some places in the Seattle area that you like to get out? Well, this is a tough question nowadays, but
it is. Yes.
What do you enjoy about Seattle outside of the music scene? Yes.
So obviously Seattle is gorgeous, right? I mean, views for days, skies, honestly, even on those days where I feel like I'm being slowly digested by an oyster because it's so wet and gray and rainy, there's still so many shades of gray in the sky. It's really very picturesque and beautiful. And so it's lovely to be out outdoors and in Seattle most of the time. And so I really enjoy walking around Seattle. I used to enjoy it much, much more because I was able to go farther because I
Mm-hmm.
was always, I could always jump on the bus and get back home. But now I sort of don't ride the bus. I'm just going to walk around. So I spend most of my time now in the Capitol Hill area, and I don't, I don't do as much at night, and but I definitely, I love walking across the bridges, going up to the U District, or going, it's I really like walking around and looking at stuff. I love looking at the street art, at the graffiti, at the stickers, at the what people are wearing, and it's just I love walking around in the city. And it was even better when you could just walk around and then be like, well, I'm tired, let's stop here and have a little something to eat, maybe a little drink. Okay, now we're going to do it another few miles. And then so I used to be able to just do that all day long, but now it's definitely not
Right.
as much.
And we're all hoping for that to come back, so that you like you said, you can walk around and catch the bus back home.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can journey to another area of town and catch the bus back, type thing.
Yeah. And even just riding the bus in different places and going different places. And, I was still, I've been here less than 4 years. So I was still discovering places. I was still like, oh, I haven't been to that place. Oh, I haven't been to, this. There's another little park I haven't found, or another, really cool restaurant someone just told me about, or, oh my gosh, I had just discovered, right before the pandemic, I had finally gone to, there was this club called the Belltown Yacht Club.
Okay.
And I don't know, I really thought it was a yacht club. And so I did not go at first. I was like,
okay,
and
gotcha.
then I was like, man, there are some really cool bands. I'm going to go into this. And so we went, and I was like, that sounds great. And so, but then I don't know, we just went to a few shows, and then of course pandemic. So I feel like I was still on the discovery part of things. And that's, you walk around Seattle and discover, all kinds of little odd things.
Have you gotten a chance? Did you get out of Seattle? Have you explored any other parts of Washington?
Yes. We have family with it. Like, we've gone skiing and snowboarding and traipsing off in the Leavenworth and Snoqualmie. Okay. And we went to Cape Disappointment.
Oh, and was it disappointing?
It was awesome. But I was like, we're in a pandemic. Everything sucks. Summer vacation, we're going to Cape Disappointment. Like, that's kind
of apropos.
That's the only thing that makes sense. So the family was like, okay, then we'll do it. So we went down there. It was a really cool town. Have you been down there?
Yes, I have.
What is it? It's there was this little town, this little harbor, Ilwaco. Oh, They have a great Saturday market all along the water, and this like nice little area for walking back and forth. Yeah, that was fun. It was honestly, at this point, I'm so starved for entertainment. Anything's good. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And actually, I have a cousin in Bellingham, and who she owns the meadery up there. I think it's called like Honeymoon Meadery in Bellingham. And so I've been up there to see her as well. And so, we've been around, get out of the city sometimes.
Yes. Bellingham's a great, it's bigger than a town, smaller than a city. I'm not sure what you want to call it, but Bellingham's a great area.
Yeah.
A lot of fun up there.
Yeah. It was fun.
And then you're just a skip away from Canada, but we're not allowed in Canada right now, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Have you, beyond Leavenworth, have you gone further east than Leavenworth? Have you gone anywhere in Eastern Washington?
Let's see. Where have we gone in Eastern Washington? Well, it's been a while since I've been to Walla Walla. But,
Okay.
but you know, I when I was in college, I lived down on the West Coast, and I did a lot more exploring and camping and
Walla
stuff
Walla,
then.
great. Walla Walla is a great place, and they've got an interesting music scene. A lot of the wineries bring in musical acts and all that, so it's kind of a fun look. Absolutely. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else.
Plus, it's fun to say Walla Walla. I mean,
Or Walla Squared.
Walla Walla, Washington.
Walla Walla, Washington, and then made famous by the Offspring, and there's one song. Anyway, I digress. No, Walla Walla is kind of. It was funny. I've lived in the state my entire life, and Walla Walla is one of the last of the well documented places I hadn't been to, and I started going down to Walla Walla for business, and I'm like, how did I miss this place?
Yeah,
what a great town, and a lot of fun. I enjoy Walla Walla a lot. So what else do you? So, are you I ask this of everybody. Are you a coffee fan?
I mean, I do like coffee. I do.
Right.
I'm more of I like my coffee con leche. I like milk coffee, and I'm pretty much a half and half. So, and I think I mentioned this earlier. I'm a hard cutoff at noon. I won't drink coffee after noon because I want it to work.
Okay. So where's a good place in your area for coffee? Was it in the mornings? I know what you're not going to say. So I mean,
yeah, I told you I'm not a big Starbucks drinker. Honestly, I have my own little, Mr. Coffee, and there's a coffee shop across the street. I forget what it's called, and they have good coffee too. But
yes, Seattle has an abundance of amazing coffee shops.
I mean, it's just at this point, if I were going places, maybe I would drink more else. But no, I think, I don't have a favorite coffee shop.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll excuse that and disappoint me. I'm a huge coffee drinker,
but it's not Starbucks, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's corporate coffee.
Yeah.
And there's so many independent coffee shops,
and that's fine if someone wants to drink that, That's just not my favorite. I think it tastes burnt.
Okay. And it's remarkably consistent. And
well, that's good.
And so if you are traveling and you're desperate for something, you know what to expect.
That is true. That is true.
Whether or not
that
you
is
like
true.
it.
Now, I'm not going to say I haven't bellied up to the bar for some kind of Frappuccino dessert thing. I must say I'm not going to lie. I definitely will step up for anything like that on vacation. Sometimes you're right. Yeah. So
I just remember when that beverage first came out, and I was working for that company at that time. And when that beverage first came out, it was extremely popular because it was very different. Now it's very commonplace, but it was very different when they brought that to the mass market, that frozen Frappuccino beverage thing. And I'd heard stories about the stores where people would come in three times a day to get a Frappuccino. And then people started complaining they didn't quite put the two and two together, and there was more calories in a Frappuccino than in a Big Mac.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't go to a McDonald's 3 times a day and get 3 Big Macs. You just wouldn't do that. But they were coming in 3. It's a drink. It can't be. Anyway, and that just stopped it for me. I was like, I don't want to consume that many calories in a sugary.
It's like a milkshake, coffee milkshake. Instead of a boozy milkshake, it's a coffee milkshake. Yeah. So it's a specialty shake.
Yeah, but people were thinking, it's coffee.
Oh, right.
So they were
right. With this much whipped cream.
Yes, and it can't be bad for me.
Right. Well, I mean, dairy does prevent osteoporosis.
But that's not real dairy. So we'll digress. We digressed away. We'll move back to the music thing.
Yeah. Back to music. Yeah.
So I think what you're doing with the show is amazing. And I love the fact that you're out there sourcing and finding and showcasing Seattle bands. So
it's easy to do. There's so much talent. So much talent.
And do you see that? Are you seeing that growing? That there's more music coming out because of the pandemic? Are you seeing any change at all?
Yeah, I think that what I noticed when the pandemic first began, I think everyone sort of paused for a minute thinking, because there were some people who were just releasing an album and then like that tour is canceled and all those promos are canceled. And so I think there was a sort of pause, but now I think people have just realized they have to make the music. Our musicians have to make music and they have to create. And so there's a lot of music coming out of it, that often happens, so a lot of people say like the sad, the sad songs are easier to write than the happy songs. And so, I'm sure there's been a lot of inspiration from this pandemic all the way around. But I think, I feel like now it seems like people are releasing music again. That's the only thing I really have noticed, is that people had to sort of slow down and figure things out a little bit and try different things,
Okay.
But I think, people at a certain point, bands need to play with each other. And so live stream, they can't help it. They want to perform with each other. They want to play. And so they're going to, after a while, why not live stream it? Why not try to make it fun for themselves? And quite frankly, a lot of the bands, there's, people would joke about like, going to people, getting invited to people's shows and, sort of like how people get invited and don't come. And, I feel like there were plenty of shows I went to where it wasn't a big crowded show. It wasn't always a big packed house, but, so yeah, I feel like ultimately they're getting back to performing and writing and recording and releasing music.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap this up. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
This is a question I didn't prepare you for, so I am putting you on the spot. So we'll give you a chance.
Okay.
Share with us, if you can do one, that's fine. I mean, that's really putting you on the spot with one. But share with us, 1, 2, 3 musical acts that the audience should go out and listen to right away. Like, are there couple 2, 3 Seattle bands? I'll use the word band, but solo performers. But that people should, they probably haven't heard them. Let's just say that, and they should hear them. Like, do you have any?
Gosh.
Can I put you on the spot?
Sure. So, I mean, I feel like if a lot of people who live in the area have probably heard of the band. So we're talking about maybe if you don't live in the area that you.
Right.
So
sure.
I feel like one of the bands that's been in the news a lot more as of late is Martial Law Band, and their music with heart and music with a message, and powerful to see them live. Really recommend if you get a chance. The band Bear Axe, or the artist Shayna Shepherd. I would say any band or any time you could go see Bear Axe or Shayna Shepherd. Shayna Shepherd is a powerhouse of a singer, an incredible voice. And, she's done some nice solo work during the pandemic, doing stuff on piano and really beautiful stuff. But when she's with Bear Axe, it's like Led Zeppelin rocking type of, just like where, and when you see them live, even better. Like, even the kind of thing where you know how sometimes you're at a show and the band starts playing and the entire room just, what is that? It's that kind of show. Like, it's they're so good. The band, the artist Nobi, Nobi, he's more soul hop. And
Okay.
I think his lyrics and his message and his music is just so beautiful. I really am enjoying this sort of soul hop genre. And I think Black Soul is another artist out of Tacoma that has that sort of soul hop genre where it's, but Nobi, I think he has a song called New Chains. And I saw that song was going to get used by one of the, I don't know if it was the Seahawks or like one of the major teams around here was picking up his music.
Oh, okay.
So I think he would be someone that I would expect to hear more of from Nobi. Flesh Produce is, I mean, if you like sort of electronica stuff, is just incredible. Again, one of those bands that when you see them live, the entire room just changes and they are sucked in. Their show, their performance, there's so many good bands, so many bands. Black Ends, I feel like that's another band. It's the lead front person for that is Nicole Swims, and I feel like they're another band that I could see sort of like when you see them live, they're so good, and I really can just see that they could keep going. There's so many good bands. We could do this all day.
Okay. Well,
but I mean, and I would say that you can, if you tune into my show,
there you go.
Local with Louise on KBFG, which is 107.3 FM in Seattle, and then KBFGSeattle.org. If you just were looking for the streaming.
And we'll put those links in the show notes too, so people can click on them.
Yeah. So then if you listen to the podcast, then you would hear a variety of bands, and then you would say like, wow, the Seattle music scene is so diverse, and there's some really beautiful, like, I like most of the artists I mentioned, some hip hop, some rock, some electronica. There's some incredibly, beautiful country and Americana and punk, and so many great it's really diverse, and I think also we're fortunate that the bands are, a lot of them, creating their own community here. Like one of the things I noticed, this was all pre-pandemic, of course, was there was the band Shark Legs, and they rented out a local venue, and they created their own, with inviting their friends and hiring the bands that they had worked with over the years, created their own like weekend festival. And, so they did that themselves. And then I know that the band La Fonda had created a weekend festival where it was all women's based bands were, I forget what it's called now. I should have looked all this stuff up before I spoke to you. But anyway, these bands are creating their own communities. They're reaching out to each other. There's stuff happening around here.
All right. Well, thank you. This is awesome. And we and I could keep it going for a long time, but we're going to respect your time. And I just want to encourage everybody to make sure they take a listen to your show, because you are showcasing a lot of music, and that you're right. You don't talk much when you're on your show. So
and thanks for reaching out and
solid music, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. No, I try to make it not about me. Yeah. But I'm glad that that you're doing what you're doing too, exploring so much of Washington. That's pretty fun.
It's a daunting task, but someone's got to do it. And it's fun, but we could go on about that, but I'm having a great time doing this. 3 shows a week now. It's a lot, but it's fun. And the great thing is I'm getting to meet a bunch of really interesting people who are doing some really amazing things.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. That is exciting. Yay. We live in a great place.
Yay.
What a great community.
The internet's a wonderful thing. It connects people.
Yeah.
But thank you. And we will put, like I said, we'll put the show notes so people can follow and hear more about what you're doing. And I really appreciate you being on.
All right. Thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate it too.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.